Okay, now let's learn how we can generate random numbers in C or C++ programming. So random number has uh, it has a lot of applications. We use random numbers in game design. We use random numbers in computer simulation. So let's see how we can generate random numbers. Right? So the random number that we will show here, that's a pseudo random number, right? So we will see that how we can generate random numbers in C++ programming, right? So to generate random numbers, we need a function called rand. So that function is defined in a library which is called cstdlib library. So the rand function is defined here. And this function generates a number between 0 and rand max. Okay, so let's see the random number that it generates, the range of that number that it can generate. So it will pick a number in that range and will give you that, return you that number, right? So here, let's see what is the maximum value that it can generate, right? So okay, so this is the maximum value of a random number given by rand function, right? So rand max, that is the value, right? So let's see what is the maximum value that we can get for a random number. So here it depends on like computer to computer. So in my system, the maximum value that you can get is 32,767, right? But in some other computers, you may get like a large value, right? So it depends on the computer architecture that you have, right? So now let's say how we get a random number, right? So for getting a random number, let's say I declare a variable int num, okay? And then I will assign a value to this num through rand function, right? So how do I do that? Okay. So here, now rand function will return a number between 0 to rand max, and that number will be assigned to num, right? So we can display that. Let's display this. So you see that the value of num is 41 when I run it. So this value that we have, that is returned by rand function. So rand function gives us 41, and that 41 is assigned to num. Let's run it again to see that whether we are getting random number or not. So we are again getting 41. Is it a coincidence? Let's try it again. We should get different number, right? So let's see again. We're getting 41. So it looks like it is not random. It's like some fixed number, right? So how to solve this problem? So here, what happens that when we call rand function, right? So it will generate a number, right? And this number generation is pseudo random number generation. So that pseudo random number generation, it needs a seed to initialize that functionality, right? So we need to provide a seed for that, right? So here what happens that by default, there is a fixed seed, a fixed value is going to that seed. And because of that, whenever we call rand function, it gives us the same number basically, okay? So how do we basically change the seed? So for that, we have a function which is called srand. And that function takes a number, right? So you can provide a number. Let's say I provide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, the seed value that I'm giving, it's a fixed number. And again, the rand function will give us a fixed value, not 41, maybe different, but every time when we'll run, since we keep the seed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time, so it will initialize the pseudo random number generation function with the same seed, and we'll get the same value for rand function on different runs. Let's verify that. So right now we are getting 7,584. Let's run it again. Again, 7,584. Let's run it again. 7,584. It means that, you see, again, because our seed is fixed, and that's why we are getting same random number, which is not random now, right? So how do we make our seed different at different time? So what we can do, basically, we can use the clock time, right? And clock time, you know that it will change for after every second, right? So what we can do, basically, we can use clock time as a seed so that it can change on every run. So how do we use clock time? So we can use the function time, and we can pass the parameter null. Okay. So this function basically, will basically give us the time, right? Okay. So this function will give us basically the time, and based on that, basically we have different values for the seed, right? And then we can basically. So now let's run this program. But here you see that there's an error. I see the time function is not recognized in cstdlib. There is a library we need to include for that. So that library we have ctime. Okay. So now when we included that ctime library, so we can basically see that error is gone, right? So now let's run this program for different time. So num is 26,514. 26,540 now. So it's coming different, right? So now you see that we have different random numbers on different run, actually, right? Okay. So that's basically, we have different random numbers on different run, right? So now that's basically, we have how to use random number so that it can give us different random numbers, right? So right now you see that this rand function, what it does basically, it gives you a random number between 0 to whatever the value that rand max has, right? So it will pick a random number between that, in that range, and it will return you that value. Let's say we want to get a random number between 0 to 100, right? So how do we do that, right? So to do that, so what we can do basically, so we can use a remainder operator, right? So here, what we can do basically, rand function, it generates a number between 0 to rand max. If you use a remainder operator with 100, so whenever you divide something by 100, so you will get a remainder between 0 to 99, right? So we can use that feature here. So we can, for example, if we write something like this, right? So now in this case, whatever rand function is generating, you are dividing with 100, and then when you divide something by 100, here we are basically getting the remainder, right? So if you divide, let's say 513 by 100, the remainder is 13. If you divide 98 by 100, the remainder is 98. So whatever you will divide by 100, you will get a remainder between 0 to 99, right? So we can verify that. Okay. So now let's see what we are getting. Okay, so we are getting now num is 70. Let's run it again. You see that Now num is 2 for the second part, where we are dividing the rand function output by 100 with remainder operator, right? So this way you can get basically a number, random number between 0 to 99, right? So let's say if I want to get a random number between 100 to 200, right? So for that, what I need to do basically, so if I want to get a number between 100 to 200, so 100 is the base, right? And then this function will generate a random number between 0 to 99. So if it generates 0, so we'll get 100. And if it generates basically 99, we'll get 199, right? So in this way, we can get a random number between 100 to 200, right? So you see that we are getting 125, right? Okay, so now let's say if we want to get basically a random number between 0 and 1. So we want it should be 0.5 or 0.3, 0.25, something like that. How do you do that? So for that, what we have to do basically, let's say we have to declare a double item, right? So let's say we name it num1, and then this num1, what we are going to do, we will multiply rand function outcome with 1.0, because rand function will generate an integer, right? So you have to basically make it a floating point. So what we are doing, we are multiplying it with 1.0, or you can use cast operator, right? And then we divide this thing by rand max, okay? So here, if we divide this thing, so let's say rand generates 100, and you divide by rand max, which is, let's say, in this case, in my computer, it is giving 32,767, right? So you divide 100 by 32,767. So you will get basically a floating point number, since you have multiplied the outcome of rand function with 1.0, right? Now, if I want to display this, so it should you see that num1 is giving me 0.32859 something, right? So I can again run it. It's a 0.67214, right? So it's giving me basically a random number between 0 and 1, right? All right, so that's all about random number generation using random function.